Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video, doing USA forecast. Today's second video, so it's also on Wednesday. We'll have a look at weather for the next 10 to 14 days for the United States. And I shall get on back for you in a moment. Just say that first video, was our 6 AM upload. I've got a 10 to 14 day with all of red features coming up for you later on this afternoon. So please like, subscribe on videos. And thank you so much everyone for doing that. Right, we're going to start off with the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. We're looking at Columbus, Ohio today. So red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Columbus, Ohio. We're starting off a little bit above average at the moment, or quite significantly above average actually, but there's a plummet in the temperature going to take place over the next couple of days. And then after that, we stay solidly below average, really right way through into the early part of February. There are some very cold GFS ensemble members as well. These down here, they're bringing in extreme cold from Canada and dropping the temperature in the upper atmosphere down to between minus 20 and minus 25. The broad thrust of the ensembles doesn't go that cold, going down to around minus 15 or so at 850 HPA, but it certainly looks like this last week of January will be proper winter unleashed across most parts of Midwest, Northern and Eastern America, and it stays pretty cold then into the opening days of February as well. Not that much snow for Columbus until we get to the closing days of the month. So next few days can be relatively dry, but then we do get a lot of snow spikes appearing as we push on into the end of January. So this is from a midnight GFS. I'm just the 6 said ensemble, so just updating. So the next few days, not all that much in way of snow. But then, you know, a lot of snow beginning to appear from around the 24th, 25th January onwards, right way through to month's end and into the beginning of February. There's going to be a lot of snow, I think, through central, northern and eastern parts of America. Temperature anomalies from the 19th to 27th from the 19th to 27th of January are milder than average out west, but colder than average through many central and eastern and midwestern states. Significantly so, really, through those central, midwestern and eastern states, well below average. So it's going to be a really cold week to come, definitely. Precipitation anomalies, it does vary from state to state, but a lot of dry weather going on, really, in most areas. So this is how the latest GFS midnight run is looking. This area of low pressure here is pushing along the US-Canadian border, and we've got a ridge of high pressure out west. In between, it pulls in those cold northern winds from Canada, and there's the extent of the cold plunge pushing southwards from Canada into the central northern states, and of course that cold air then will spread out eastwards across most northern and eastern parts of America in the next few days. That trough of low pressure moves in towards the northeast, will bring significant snow to northeastern parts of states tomorrow, and behind it we pull down that cold northerly wind from Canada. There it comes, cold blast pushing south with this ridge of high pressure then beginning to move in over that cold air, so it will become exceptionally cold, severely cold over that snow-covered ground. Get to the end of the week, high pressure event is dominating across many central, northern, east areas, so the snow will ease off, but the heavy snow will die away, but mainly dry, but it will be sorry everybody, it will of course be very cold under that area of high pressure. So that keeps cold, frosty weather going into the weekend. And then another area of low pressure with an even colder pool of air is starting to try and dig in from Canada. Meanwhile, out west, we just remain under this area of high pressure off the Pacific, so that will keep many western areas mainly dry and reasonably mild as well. Of course, there could be overnight frost and whatnot, but not desperately wintry out in west and that area of high pressure. Now, another northerly blast is setting in here across the northern and northeastern parts of America through the early part of next week, as this next area of low pressure comes sweeping through the Midwest. There it goes, and off into the east, and in its wake again, we're pulling down another one of those cold blasts of northerly wind ahead of this area of high pressure then that starts pushing in through those central, northern and eastern parts of America. So we're back under mainly dry and cold weather by the middle of next week under that ridge of high pressure. And then we keep it cold really right way into the final days of January as an area of low pressure brings a bit of a northeaster there off the east coast of America. That could bring significantly significant snow to those eastern and northeastern states with a gale force northeasterly wind, classic northeaster type pattern. And just generally cold, really, through most parts of the western and midwest with this pattern. To be honest, I mean the east and the midwest. Out into the western states again, the ridge of high pressure off Pacific keeps things drier and milder through there. Another blast of northerly winds here as we get to the end of January. Here comes the next sort of push of northerly. See how again this repeated sort of northerly blast from Canada type pattern. Then it eases as high pressure ridges in, and then you get another northerly blast. This is very, very typical of what we see in recent winters across America. So yeah, again, another sort of blast of northerly winds there, right at the close of January, start of February, followed by a ridge of high pressure, and on it's going, really, right way up to the extended range. So by the time we get through to the 4th of February, which is as far as we go with the GFS midnight run, looks like we're just starting to try and pull some milder air up from the south then. This area of high pressure in the east, that starts to drag up some milder air from the south. Let's have a look at the upper air temperatures with this. So look at the extent of those very cold upper air temperatures sweeping across America through the rest of this week. It will turn very, very cold indeed. And then we get another push of cold northerly winds as we go through the weekend and on into early part of next week, and even colder blasts actually through the Midwest in particular, and over to some of those eastern states as well. Regular plunges of very cold air, another one there, middle of next week. Regular plunges of very cold air and heavy spells of snow as well through those Midwestern, northern, eastern states. All the while out west, it's nowhere near as cold then, under a ridge of high pressure off the Pacific. You know, the west is protected, kind of like how Western Europe is at the moment, with ridge of high pressure from the Azores. They've got it, well, it keeps Western Europe generally dry, reasonably mild, with cold air across northern Eastern Europe. Very similar scenario in America. The western coastal areas off the Pacific, you know, the west coast kept basically dry and protected by the high pressure from the Pacific, whereas northern, central and eastern parts of America, that's where the cold air is. There is a little bit of a retreat of the cold air for a while, for a couple of days at the end of the month, and then another sort of blast of cold northerly winds again, pushing that very cold air from Canada southwards as we go into the very end of January and the start of February, looking at extremely cold there for most northern east parts of America. Although by the very end of the GFS run, long way out, over 2 weeks away, by the 4th of February, you could be starting to see these milder or warmer upper air temperatures just beginning to push northwards, perhaps, and the coldest of the air, probably temporarily, but the coldest of the air retreating back into Canada. Right, so plenty of snow and very cold weather to come across much of northern eastern America on the GFS. Let's have a look at the ECMWF and the Euro, see what that's doing. Again, we've got this area of low pressure pushing across the US-Canadian border and introducing that cold northerly wind over the next couple of days. So much of the Midwest into the east will turn cold and wintry. There will be snow at times. Then early next week, we get another push of cold air from Canada. That will move into those Midwestern and northern parts of America as well. But a ridge of high pressure takes over middle of next week. That will bring mainly dry, but will be very dry weather, but will be very cold, of course, under that area of high pressure. And then by the time we get through day 10, that's how we look with an area of low pressure off the east coast of America, proper northeaster. That could well bring heavy snow up the eastern side of America with that northeast. So meanwhile in west again, same idea, ridge of high pressure extending in from off the Pacific, keeping most parts of Western America mainly dry. Of course, much of America had a very mild December, but things have really changed now as we've gone into January. So it's a bit of a late start of this winter, but it really is in business now, I think. Okay, so CLSV2 finally, these are 500 millibar heights broken down to meet periods. The first week period takes from the 18th to 24th of January. The coming week has a ridge of high pressure off the west coast of America with a trough of low pressure into the north and the northeast. Jet stream is dipping southwards, doing something a little bit like that, bringing cold weather to northern eastern America. Meanwhile, out west, there's going to be a lot of dry weather with that ridge of high pressure. Week 2 will be the 25th to 31st of January. Again, a ridge of high pressure will be up the west coast, keeping things mainly dry bare. But look at this big trough of low pressure for much of northern, midwestern, and eastern America, and a real dip in the jet stream as well. That looks like it could be a very cold week as we come into the last week of January. Week 3 will be the 1st and the 7th of February. Again, low pressure is in the north. There's a bit of a reach down to the southwest now. So that will probably just push the jet stream a little bit further north. It will be very cold, much of northern, northeastern America, but some of these more southern states might go a little bit milder. And then we get through to week 4, which is going to be the 8th to the 14th of February, with high pressure up the western side of America, low pressure to the northeast, and the jet stream again pushing southwards a little bit like that. Temperature anomalies look like this. Week 1, 18th, 24th of January. Above average in the west and the northwest. Colder than average in the east and south and southeast. Look at this on to week 2, which is the 25th of January to the 31st. Extremely cold across many northern, midwestern, and northeastern parts of America. It's just generally cold everywhere away from the western side, actually. And it goes on into week 3 as well, 1st to the 7th of February, exceptionally cold across most parts of America, just this western, southwestern part of America that's milder otherwise, and perhaps towards the east coast as well, east seaboard. Otherwise, very, very cold. But of course, where we've got this transition on the east seaboard, so of course, this is where the Gulf Stream and whatnot is in the Atlantic. So between that and this very cold air that we have plunging southwards, into much of northern East America, you can expect like low pressure and so on to be running up the east coast, and that can deliver lots of heavy snow and whatnot, as we've already explained. Of course, just in Europe, there is I know a lot of people will be watching this from Europe, so for us in Europe, there is like a knock-on effect of this. So as this cold air sort of plunges through America and then hits this warm water really across the Atlantic, and where the Gulf Stream is, you know, that can produce cyclogenesis. It can be very explosive, and so what can happen with that is that you get deep areas of low pressure and so on pushing across the Atlantic, and we can go into like a stormy pattern. So maybe with this cold weather into northern and eastern America, end of January and into February, that might break down high pressure we've been under for several weeks, and maybe turn us a bit stormier into February. We'll have to see about that, of course. And then finally we go through to week 4, which is the 8th to the 14th of February. Again, we look really mild or warm out west. Still cold even then, even across these midwestern and eastern parts of America, but it's not quite as severe then as we get through to the 2nd week of February. But certainly last week of January, 1st week of February, looking really, really cold, and potentially severely cold in some parts of America then. And finally, precipitation anomalies for week 1. So it's a little bit wetter than average up in the north, because that's all going to be snow across these northern areas. Otherwise, most parts of America are actually relatively dry until we come down into these far southern states where it is rather wetter. And then we get into week 2, that last week of January, which of course is very cold, but is also rather dry. But any precipitation that does fall through the central, midwestern, and eastern states will be falling as snow, of course. Then into week 3, which is the 1st week of February, just a little bit wetter out to the northwest. So that ridge from the Pacific, perhaps easing a little bit wetter through these eastern areas as well. That's going to be snow, of course, on the east coast. Otherwise, average sort of precipitation anomalies. And then week 4 will be the 8th to 14th of February. The southern states are drier, but northern states are quite wet. And again, a lot of that is going to be snow as well. So yeah, I've been talking about this in USA forecast a lot over the past few weeks. Winter really biting. Now, it was a late start. It was a very mild December across most parts of America, but now winter got going. It looks like it's well and truly bedding in, and it's going to be a pretty cold, couple of weeks at least across most parts of the states during this last week of January, particularly, and into the 1st week of February. Some really, quite severely cold weather is on the way, and there will be a lot of snow involved in that, of course, as well. Out west, it will be a lot warmer, so for anybody in America who wants some warmth, head off to California, those sort of areas, and it will be much warmer there. And, of course, as always, down in Florida, the Sunshine State. Right, so that's it then. We'll do it all over again next week. We'll be back shortly with a 10 to 14 day for the UK and for Europe as well. But for this week's USA forecast, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.